Uh, Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about why senior citizens should be taking tests regularly after retirement so they can drive. Now, starting out, have you ever been driving and some guy you think is drunk just starts swerving around, slowing down, and speeding up? You don't know what's going on. And you drive next to him, and it's a senior citizen. Well, I live in Owasso, so it's like all old people. And no disrespect to old people, but some of them can't drive. Now, my point is, I feel like after retirement age, they should be taking tests for cognitive function, reasoning, and driving. So 65, maybe take a test, and then 10 years later, 75, take another test, and then at 80, take another test, and at some point they're not gonna be able to drive, obviously. So some research shows that at the age of 45, cognitive function slows down a little bit, but at 65, it really gets steeper and it can probably get exponential. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like, it's fact.
Park my car.
And according to the National Institute of Health, people around the retirement age have a lot of slower reaction time compared to a 30-year-old healthy person. So why are we doing this? Because you need to pass a test to drive at a young age. If I'm 16, I want to drive, I got to pass a test. Everyone does. So why not older people? Why shouldn't they take a test? I work with older people, and I'm telling you, they have slow thinking. So you have to kind of wait on them. So imagine them driving. I'd be scared, okay? If I knew my client was driving, I'd probably be scared for somebody else. So how do we do it? We just test their the cognitive function. And she said last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever, that what if they can't afford public transport since they can't drive? Well, I have a solution. It is maybe the government can stop sending money elsewhere and allocate it to our citizens, senior citizens that can't take care of themselves. That's a good solution. Do we know it's gonna happen? I don't know. But that's my, yeah. Any questions?
I also have another solution for you.
Let's go.
Like Uber Eats or delivery groceries, stuff like that could also be like how they could get their stuff that they need.
Well, that should also be a public thing.
But I'm saying like, if they're driving there to get the food, they're already spending money going to get the food. So
Well, there's delivery services. Like
that's what I'm saying. You could add that in your speech and be like, this is how they could also get.
Yeah.
Yeah, use Walmart delivery or Uber delivery or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, couple things.
Yeah.
Structurally, when you get your critique sheet, you did finally give us an opposite side, which you really got from Alyssa, which was, well, senior needs rides sometimes. So
Yeah.
the rebuttal to that was the government should be able to help. Of course, what happens if the government shut down and there is no money? That would never happen. No, never mind that. Forget that. Okay, so then at the end, you're gonna restate your thesis, which you didn't do, and then you're gonna give us a call to action. What do you want us to do?
Help people.
Okay, but yeah, that's what you're missing here is this call to action at the end.
What do I say? Like protest? I don't know. I'm not a protester. I'm not really kinda-
That's the thing with an argument or persuasive speech. Like, if you really want me to believe this, like, what action do you want me to take?
Oh, I don't
You
know.
want me to get my mom, who's 84, to like go somewhere and get tested? Because right now she has a driver's license. There's a big old Oldsmobile sitting out in front of her senior home that she could go get into anytime she wants, but she never does because she's scared. So he just sits out there and pays the insurance, and I drive it around and fill up with gas, but
Yeah.
that doesn't really solve anything. So what do you want us to do?
I have to think about that.
I know.
Yeah.
So that's why this is your rough draft. So next week, when you come back and do your final, we need a call to action at the end.
Okay.
So your description of the driving experience I thought was good. what's at stake, safety on the roads. You brought up your personal investment that you work with seniors. I think you should bring that up earlier. You kind
Oh.
of tucked it in late. So I
Okay.
bring that up earlier so we don't think that you're just slamming seniors. And then your thesis essentially is seniors should get tested before driving. You made it to 65. This is bothersome to me because I'm 64. So that means next year I have to take another driver's test to prove that I can drive. But I'm gonna survive. It's all right. You gave us a little bit of the opposite side. On your presentation, up front, you started like doing this number.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's avoid that. You had a bunch of ums and uhs and a bunch of so's. That's one of your verbal crutches.
Okay.
Saying so.
Yeah.
So let's try and get rid of some of the crutches. Add your restatement of the thesis. Figure out a call to action for us. And then you have an acceptable speech here.
All right.
Okay?
Thank
All right,
you.
let's give David a hand. Mr. Off the Cuff is what we're just gonna call you from now on. Hunter's not here, so he did a proposal, but he's not doing his practice one, so that'll be tough. Let's see. Bailey is the next one here. Didn't you changed
Yeah.
from, I don't remember what you went to after the world was flat. Have you changed since then, even that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear it.
You probably noticed it by now, but everywhere you go, a screen's always asking if you want to leave a tip. From coffee shops, kiosk counters, to even self-checkouts. Tipping is expected almost everywhere. What started as a way to show appreciation has turned into something that feels forced. But here's why that matters. As tipping culture becomes more extreme, customers are starting to push back a little. Some even decided to stop tipping altogether out of protest. But this does not affect those companies at all. It just hurts their workers. What many people don't realize is that restaurant servers do not earn the same minimum wage as everyone else is. In the US, their base pay is still just $2.13 an hour, meaning their income depends almost entirely on tips alone. I work in a restaurant, so I see the negatives to this every day. Servers run from table to table, managing multiple people at once, only to end the night with little to nothing when people decide not to tip. As someone planning to go into human resources, this makes me question why the US is still relying on customers to pay workers fairly, and what we can learn from other countries who have moved beyond tipping. The US needs to end tipping culture and replace it with fair employer-paid wages. This shift would create stability for workers and eliminate the uncertainty that comes with tipping. First, labor costs should be built into menu prices. Since 1991, the federal tip minimum wage has been stuck at $2.13 an hour. It's unfair that servers' income is left up to the customers. Employers should be paying fair wages directly, with menu prices adjusted to include the cost of labor. At my restaurant, we recently started this endless possible promotion. Well, a table ordered it, and they ordered a refill after refill. I watched their waitress run back and forth for an hour getting these refills, and in the end, they didn't leave her a tip at all. So she did all that work for free. No server should ever be in that position, and we can avoid these situations by just putting the cost of labor into the menu. Next, other countries already implement the system successfully. In many countries like France, Australia, or Japan, tipping is not expected because fair wages are already given. A meal might cost slightly more, but the price reflects the true cost of service. Customers can still leave a small cash tip if they want to, but no one is forced or pressured into it. Now compare that to the US, where tipping is not only expected, but it's monitored. At many coffee shops, you'll notice that they'll flip the screen towards you, and they can see how much you tip. This is referred to as guilt tipping because customers are guilted into tipping more just because they're being judged. That's where this has gone way too far. And not to mention, the current system has way too many loopholes. Going back to the endless possibles I mentioned before, there's been many times where customers will just order so many refills, box them up, then tip their server nothing. So they're getting all these meals for free at the cost of the server. This is exactly why labor costs need to be tied to the menu. And in the same way that customers can trick restaurants, these businesses have been using tipping to their advantage. For example, at a restaurant like mine where meals are about $15 to $25, a 20% tip is only going to be about $5. While at a steakhouse where meals are $70 or more, that same 20% is going to be way more. So how is it fair that a server at a normal restaurant is making way less than these servers when they're doing the same amount of work? It's not fair. And it's especially unfair to the customer who now has to pay an extra $10 to $20 just on tipping alone. But of course, not everyone agrees with that. Some servers might actually disagree with eliminating tipping. Many of them are used to making far more than minimum wage on busy nights, sometimes even $15 to $25 an hour on tips alone. To them, switching to a standard hourly wage sounds like a pay cut. They worry that without the motivation of tips, good service might not be rewarded and their earnings potential would be limited. That concern is understandable, but real-world examples show that isn't always true. According to NCR magazine, when a restaurant in Chicago implemented a no tipping policy, service pay actually became more steady and reliable. Instead of depending on unpredictable tips, their income was built on fair hourly wages, plus commission opportunities for promoting desserts and drinks. This means that servers still have the chance to make more money, just in different ways. Rather than relying on busy nights or generous customers, they can make more money through sales any day of the week. This system also rewards hard work while guaranteeing a steady paycheck to fall back on. So to restate my main point, the US needs to move away from tipping culture towards fair employer-paid wages. While this change would cause restaurant prices to rise slightly, that increase is only going to be about 10 to 15%, which is actually less than what we already paid through tips. So, in other words, fair pay for workers does not have to mean higher costs for customers. But until that change happens, we should continue to tip servers fairly at sit-down restaurants, since they still depend on those earnings. But we should also recognize where tipping is not necessary, like coffee shops or counter service kiosks, because those workers are already being paid hourly. My parents always told me that when you go out to eat, you're paying for both the food and the service. That's what tips are meant for. So if you can't afford pay that extra 10 to 15%, maybe dining out is not the right choice that day. There are always going to be cheaper alternatives, but people serving you should not be the ones paying the price. Any questions?
Yes, would you take me through your opposite side again? Like
Yeah.
why? That's what I was trying to pull out of the end of your talk there. What's the opposite side of this?
I said not every server is going to agree because they're used to making, like some nights on busy nights, you can make up to $25 an hour. That's 1 day a week. So I was arguing that you should make it steady instead of being like a high and low.
So your opposite side is really the server's point of view.
Yeah.
And then the response to that is, well, not everybody makes $25 an hour every night. So as a result of that, I'm actually just trying to lock in on the tipping part, because what I got out of your thesis is tipping culture should be replaced by adequate wages, is essentially what I'm getting out of that. But you also verged in toward the end, which is like, hey, if you can't tip, you shouldn't go out and try and do business with the service industry. So both these are good points. I'm just trying to figure out exactly which way you're going with the whole thing. So when you rethink this for your final, you might emphasize one of those more at the beginning. But overall, I thought it was really solid and interesting. And all of us that buy stuff or go to restaurants, we all deal with this one way or the other. And I think that it's a really interesting fact that service workers only make $2.13 an hour. And that hasn't changed for how long?
Since 1991.
Since 1991, 34 years ago. That seems like that's even the bigger argument, is that you kind of said that, but that service workers should make more than that per hour, really. I also thought the interesting term you brought up was guilt tipping. You know, when they give you I was somewhere like the BOK Center or something, you know, I'm just trying to get a bottle of water, an overpriced bottle of water, and there's you're gonna give this guy $1 just for like giving you a bottle of water? So that's an interesting one. What else about, you're doing well, posture's good, volume. On your hands, you're using your hands well. Occasionally you get a little ringy. You clasp them and kind of do this number. So try and keep them apart, or sometimes you can go like this, and that's all right. And the other thing I would say is that you're looking at me mostly. So look around at your other classmates and the other people in the room, okay, as you do your talk. And when you listen back to this, if you do watch it again, we'll have it up later today or tomorrow. I'm gonna get you to think about varying your speaking melody a little bit. You tend to do the same thing. It's kind of a rise and fall and a rise and fall. And that can get a little monotonous. So you might think of a way just to kind of vary that. I'm not saying you should sing while you're up there or anything, but you get in the same cadence and the same melody each time. So let's see if we can vary that a little bit for more impact. I think it's really, really interesting and good. Anybody else? Nope? All right, yay, good job. Very interesting. Somebody else is gonna come up next. That's gonna be Alyssa, the famous Alyssa.
I get super nervous for no reason.
Breathe, just remember, breathe, big breaths, let that breath push your voice out there.
A lot of people my age are wondering if college is even worth it, and honestly, with how expensive it is, I don't blame them. About 56% of Americans don't enroll in college because of the cost, and about 38% of people do enroll, but they end up dropping out. We're told college leads to better jobs and higher pay, but how can that be true if so many people can't even get there? That's why I believe that college should be free. It would open up opportunities to reduce stress, student debt, and help people have better, healthier lives. Let's talk about money first. The battle of paying for college for a bachelor's degree can cost anywhere from $27,000 to $100,000. Most students have to take out loans, and that debt follows them for years or even decades. In 2020, student debt hit $1.56 trillion, and that's not helping anybody's future. Other countries have already proven that free college can work. In Germany, Norway, and Finland, all made college tuition free for everyone, even international students. Germany did it back in 2014, and it helped reduce financial stress. And it built a stronger, more skilled workforce. These countries see education as a right, not a privilege. Free college can also improve health. Studies show that college graduates are less likely to have heart disease, depression, or anxiety. They're more likely to have stable jobs, health insurance, and less stress. When people are educated, they make healthier choices that benefit everyone. Now I know that there are concerns. Some people say free college would spike taxes or overcrowd schools or think students wouldn't appreciate it if it were free. But education is an investment, not just in us individuals, but in our country. If we can make college completely free right now, we can at least make it more, if we can't make college free right now, we can at least make it more affordable with more scholarships, better financial aid, and lower interest rate loans. In the end, making college free isn't just about degrees. It's about giving everyone a fair shot of success, because when more people are educated in the whole country, the country gets stronger. So the real question isn't if we can afford it, it's that if we can't afford it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, hold on a second there. What about your opposite side?
I'll have to rebuttal with that.
Okay, so next week, when you do your final, you gotta have the opposite side. So like, what's the difference between students that have college degrees?
Well,
and those-
I said that that students wouldn't appreciate the degree that they have. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't want to do this because like we won't appreciate it, or the schools will be overcrowded. I don't remember my other one.
Okay, well, you're kinda going two different directions, and I think this is a good argument. It's kinda like Bailey's making really good points, and got to another really good point at the end. I'm not sure they lined up in your total organization.
Okay.
So this is, should college be free, or what's the value of college?
Okay.
There are two different things that are going on there.
Okay.
So if if college should be free, well, who's gonna pay for it? The government?
Okay.
Well, if the government somehow were shut down, then what would happen? Well, that would never happen, so you can't do that side. Let's go with the opposite side being, would the states pay for it, for the individual states? What about a private school, and who gets to go to Harvard and who gets to go to OU?
Okay.
And OU's cheaper than Harvard, so should Harvard be free? But it's a private school, as
Okay.
opposed to OU, which is a state school. So it gets kind of complicated as soon as you start
Okay.
digging into it. So I think your bigger argument, I think, is the value of college. Because what you're essentially getting to is it's so expensive that it's unaffordable for a lot of people. And if it weren't so unaffordable, maybe people would go. That's one side of it. But really is what's the value?
Okay.
Because the famous thing of you should go to tech, if you wanna make some money, go to tech school. Become a medical professional, become an electrician, become a plumber. You know, learn how to do something that AI can't replace. But then you top out in those professions at only making so much. And then you complain about only making so much, and then somebody says, oh, you should have gone to college. Well, if you'd gone to college, you wouldn't have as much money, but you'd have a degree and you'd keep making more money. The whole idea of the college degree is it appreciates over time. How much does a car cost these days? A brand new automobile?
70,000.
Well, that's a truck,
Sure.
farm girl, right? It's, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that fast, but really, that's 70 grand for a truck.
More than that. That's like base model, but
Okay, sure. Where's a college degree? 40 or 50. When's that truck gonna wear out?
In
10
a
years,
few
5
years,
years,
yeah.
depends how hard you work. You're pulling trailers and
Yeah.
bouncing around fields and wrecking into stuff, right? So you spent $70,000, but not only that, at 10% interest, 8% interest, 5% interest, you're really paying back like 90 for that
Yeah.
truck. So you spent $90,000 on a truck that's lasted 8 years. As opposed to a college degree, you spent 40 to 50 on that lasts your whole life. So what's the better value, the truck or the college degree? See where I'm going with that?
Yes.
I'm trying to get you in that realm,
okay.
alright?
Sounds good.
Or other than that, I think you're doing a lot better. You can do a little more with your hands. I'd like to see you talk a little more than you're reading. This is the warm-up though, so it's your practice one. And we know that your voice gets shaky when you don't breathe. So breathe. Take big, deep breaths. In announcing what we do is we put a little mark, 2 little marks in our copy or whatever we're reading. And so we know when we hit it, we need to take a breath there. So that might be something that you could put in your text, a breath mark, a little asterisk, whatever reminds you that you need to breathe. So you read, you talk a sentence or two, take a breath. Talk another sentence or two, take a breath. But don't use all the air in your lungs. And that's what you do, is you talk the air all out of your body. And then at the end of it, your voice is shaky. Whereas if you'll replenish your lungs every sentence or two, you'll be stronger as you talk. So you have a loud voice naturally, but it's a little shaky because you're not breathing.
Okay.
So that's what we're gonna keep working on. But I think this is a really interesting argument and you should be thinking about this. So next week, you're gonna give us an opposite side, maybe
Yes.
just a tiny little bit more focus on this particular argument. And you might shift it around a little bit.
Okay.
But I thought it was good overall. Let's give her a hand. Yay. Melissa. Next on the hit parade here, Caden, chicken down. No, did he get up there in front of us last week? Or, no, he didn't, because the paperwork he brought was not really his stuff, was it? We're talking about you, Caden, wherever you are. I know you're not watching anyway, but. Grace is coming up next. I think all y'all are brave and you're doing well. Putting yourself on television in front of everybody for all time. So.
Yeah, my friend Izzy sent me a video of me talking when you showed your comp class.
Oh, my comp class? Yeah, because I was showing them the argument. Because
Yeah.
we're doing an argument over there in the composition. So I said, look what these guys are up to. That's where we saw Caden on his phone. And they were talking about Caden on his phone. Look, why is he on his phone? You're getting on to us all the time. Like, all right. So then I was telling the class, be more like Alyssa, who puts hers on like a lighter shade and holds it under her desk. At least we can't see it.
Hey, you're the one who said you didn't care if we were on our phones because we paid for the class.
Yes, I know I said that. But Grace, it's your turn. So. Wait, you didn't bring your Care Bears, but you wore your Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt.
Did.
That's almost, I think it's better actually, because I like Pooh more than Care Bears. I think it's ready for you, we're ready for your speech.
How many of you know someone who's an immigrant or a refugee from another country? Okay. And how many of you come from immigrant families yourselves?
We all do, unless you're native.
Today, I'm going to share with you all why it's important for immigrants and refugees to integrate rather than assimilate into a new country. And if you're unfamiliar with the difference between these two terms, assimilation is where a minority group fully conforms to the dominant society by changing language, culture, religion, and all of those aspects. And integration is a combination of learning a new language and integrating into a new culture while still maintaining your customs such as your religion and aspects like that. Integration is vital because it eases acclimation, helps to support a family's fresh start, and it provides a platform for generational prosperity. What's at stake here? There are thousands of families that are stuck in unsafe countries, and for some, the best option is to flee to another country. Oftentimes, it is out of necessity and not desire that people leave their home country. Whether these reasons are for safety, freedom of expression, or pursuit of equality, sometimes leaving the country you love is the safest option for you and your family. While people may be physically safer in a new country, many people, it's a constant mental battle of missing home, feeling out of place, and struggling to acclimate to a new culture. And this is why the difference between integration and assimilation is so important, so that you maintain those cultural values from your homeland back home. My personal investment in this topic is I was trying to whittle this down for my speech because I just could talk about it for a long time, but my dad's family immigrated here from Russia from a displaced persons camp in Munich. There's actually a website my dad was showing me. It's called I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like an Oklahoma history archive, and it has like newspaper articles and things. So you can put in like your family's last name or your last name or whatever and find tons of, well, for my family, you can find tons of newspaper articles about, how your family came to Oklahoma and things like that. But that's just like a side note. And then also my family is very involved in the Afghan refugees that live in Owasso, and then they also have family members that live in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and Texas and stuff like that. The Afghan families came here in I think 2021, and I've seen over the past 4 years how moving here has affected them both positively and negatively. And I'm just gonna say the family, because I know their names, but just to protect their privacy, so I'm not gonna use their actual last names. But one of the families, they are a lot happier about being here in America, and they're very yes, let's, we're all gonna go to school and we're gonna all do, all of the things that are normal here in America that aren't necessarily normal in Afghanistan. And they have tended to be happier because but both of the families are also still keeping their culture and their faith. There's a mosque in Tulsa, a Muslim mosque, and they all go there, and they're not no one is asking them to be, the religions here Christian or all those kind of things. They're able to keep those things that are so important to them, but while still learning English, which is one of the most important parts of coming to a new country, whether you're, going to France and you have to learn French, or you're coming to the United States and you need to learn English. That's one of the most important parts of integration, is learning that new language. And the opposite side of this about learning a new language and integration is, some people will say well, you don't have to change when you come somewhere new. And there's also another, I did a lot of research on it, and there's another side, and it's well, either you don't have to change at all or you should change completely. But I read an article that was covering an eight-month ethnographic, which I looked it up, and ethnographic means relating to the scientific description of people and cultures with customs and stuff like that. And it took place from about 2004 to 2005 at a high school in the Midwest in the United States. And it talked about how there were issues at the school with people who were speaking languages other than English being looked down upon by not only students but teachers as well. And there are some people that argue that it's well, you're here, you should speak English, but that's not always the case. You should still be able to celebrate your language from your home country, and while also learning English. And in closing, integration is important because it eases acclimation, helps support a family's fresh start, and provides a platform for generational prosperity. So my call to action for you is this: if you have the opportunity to help people learn English, I highly recommend it, because it can seem a little scary if you're talking to someone and you can't fully communicate with them, but think about that's your interaction with one person, and their interaction is with thousands of people, and they're struggling to communicate with them. So if you can help one person communicate better, just between you, it's really beneficial for you and for them. Any questions?
I have a question. I thought this was really good. It's a real good, serious topic. And obviously you have experience in this. Your personal investment's very good. This is well organized. I liked your storytelling, how you described everything. I like that you brought up the term ethnographic and then you defined it for us. Your opposite side, I liked how you brought a few different things in that. You don't have to change, you should change completely, you can change a little bit, however you're gonna do that. But you should be able to celebrate your heritage. I thought that was solid. I like the restatement of your thesis. And I liked your call to action. I thought that that was kind of unique. David, did you notice that? She had a good call to action?
Yes.
Right. It said, help people learn English. Get out there, be involved. And that gets into kindness and how important kindness is and how important it is for us to help other people and why it's good for us to help other people. A whole other bunch of topics come up there. I think you're doing well on all your basics. Here's what I'm gonna say about your volume. You're talking very normally. And I think if you were to get in front of more people than the 10 of us here, however many are here, you would need to push your voice out a little bit more. And I think that's something you might be able to practice by yourself in your room or something with your phone and just hear the difference. You know, famous thing in elementary school, you know, don't use your outdoor voice inside. When you're doing public speaking, sometimes you have to use your outside voice to get it out there. So you have a loud enough voice, you're really just not pushing it out that much. So I'd say you could work on that a little bit. And you're a little bit reserved, so I think you kind of let your personality out, sort of, but I think you kind of let it out a little bit more. And just like loosen up, basically, is the idea there. I think did you catch my just then? I noticed that you said like a few times, so we'll try and get rid of those. And then I noticed a because instead of a because, so let's keep that in mind going forward. But otherwise, I thought it was really solid. So good job, hooray, Grace, yay. Okay, I think we just have a couple more. That's gonna be Jasmine and Marianne. So we got plenty of time. Practice, and then next week is the final.
Imagine sitting in your room with a feeling that you just can't shake. One day you're fine, and then the next you can't even find motivation to get out of bed. You finally build up the courage to tell your parents just to hear you can't afford therapy. How is that fair? No one should have to choose between their mental health and their finances. Therapy should be affordable for everybody. When therapy or mental health services are too expensive, people suffer in silence. Many go undiagnosed with anxiety, depression, PTSD, or other conditions until they reach a crisis, sometimes resulting in suicide thoughts, hospitalization, or a job loss. The World Health Organization estimates that depression and anxiety cost the global economy over $1 trillion each year in lost productivity. Without excessive care, people lose not just in their health, but in their stability in relationships. I've struggled with my mental health for the past 4 years. The first 2 years, I couldn't afford it. It wasn't until I discovered the Indian Hospital here in Claremore offers free therapy that I finally got help. And I'm grateful to be Cherokee because that makes it possible for me to get the therapy I needed. But what about everybody else? What about the millions who don't have the access to get free and affordable care? Therapy shouldn't depend on where you live, what you earn, or who you are. It should be a right, not a privilege. A growing mental health crisis affects millions of young people today. Nearly 1 in 5 teens experiences anxiety or depression, and 18% have seriously considered suicide in the past year. Native Americans face the highest suicide rates of any facial or ethnic group, and about 70% will experience a mental health disorder in their lifetime. Some argue that therapy costs are fair because of education and training therapists must be completed. And yes, that skill is valuable, but that doesn't change the reality that many people simply can't afford hundreds of dollars a month for help. Even with sliding scale fees of insurance, the cost remains too high for too many. Free resources like school counseling or support groups can help, but they're often limited or temporary. True healing requires consistency and professional care. We can't keep ignoring the cost of mental health. It's time to speak up, time for change, and push for insurance that truly covers mental health. Advocate for policies that make therapy accessible and share resources with those who can't afford therapy. Don't be silent, talk about it, advocate for it, and stand up with those still waiting for affordable care. Because no one should choose between healing and surviving. Mental health care should be a right, not a privilege. Any questions?
Your opposite side. What's the other side of this?
Some people can afford it, so they don't think it's a problem for other people.
That's something I think you need to flesh out a little bit more for next time. And it's kind of that. You know, whose responsibility is it for someone else's mental health issues? Is it a social responsibility, political responsibility? What I really like about this is you brought in the economic impact of this, as well as the social impact on people and families and all the socio elements that come up with all that. So I'm not quite sure, just in my own head, how to go with an opposite side on this, aside from what you've already said, is that it's people's personal responsibility to recognize they have an issue, then try to get help. Well, what if they can't afford it? What do we do? Do we send them off to a big camp somewhere and let them all live together? That people have mental health
I mean,
issues?
sometimes people just send them to a mental hospital and just lock them up and like, well, that's the best we can give you. But like, if they were put on medication or have a consistent therapy session, then they'd be able to get the care that they need.
Good, that's where you need to go with this. You know, the opposite side says, well, we should just institutionalize these people, like we used to do. But that's not the humane way to go about this. The humane way is to help them with some treatment that either they can afford or is provided to them, something along those lines, okay?
Okay.
So that's the only thing you're really missing, is that part. I really like your intro. What's at stake? People that are undiagnosed many problems are caused by that. I didn't quite write that correctly here, so when you read it. I thought that it was brave of you to bring up your personal experience, how you've gone through that. But what I would tell everybody is that's what makes it dramatic and important. This matters to you. It's personally important to you. And, I'm teasing David a little bit, but that's what makes his thing more interesting and believable is he's like, I work with seniors. I see how they are. So, and I also drive around a lot and see them not driving correctly. So he's got a personal investment there, some personal stake in the whole situation. And I think that, well, actually everybody so far has had a personal stake of one type or another in their speeches. So I like that. I thought your thesis was solid. People need more access to mental health treatments. And you brought up that mental health has economic and social impacts. I really like how you brought up, what about others? This dovetails with Grace's thing of helping people, right? That, well, okay, I'm all right now. So since I'm okay, everybody else can go figure it out. Instead, you gave us a call to action, advocate for policies to help this issue. So I think the structure is really solid there. Just you can get that opposite side in. I thought your overall situation is you're looking better up there. I always want a little more volume out of you. Push it out a little bit more. Free your hands a little bit. Let them roam and make some points. Point at us or use your knuckle pointer or however you're going to do that. And then since this was your practice one, you're reading a little more than talking. You practice a couple times. You'll talk it more a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I would dovetail with Bailey's recommendation, or my recommendation to her, which is when you listen back to this, you do a similar thing of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the same melodic pattern on each sentence. So what you wanna do is vary that a little bit. Read one sentence one way, read another sentence another way, emphasize a certain word, slow down for a second here and there, vary your pace. Even if you do the same melody, you can slow it down a little bit, right? Something like that. But overall, I think it's really solid and interesting. So, looking forward to the fun. Good job. And we're gonna close it out with Mary Ann. You're the closer today.
Okay. Imagine rushing into the emergency room, terrified, in pain, and desperate for help, only to hear the words, "I can't treat you because it goes against my beliefs." In that moment, your health, safety, and dignity depends not only on medicine or ethics, but on someone else's personal opinion. This issue isn't theoretical. Every year, real people are denied care because of a doctor or pharmacist refuses services based on their moral or religious beliefs. Patients have been denied birth control, HIV medications, abortions, and gender-affirming care. When personal beliefs decide who deserves treatment, access to care becomes unequal and lives are at risk. As a college student preparing to go into adulthood, I know that someday any of us could depend on medical care in a life or death moment. I believe healthcare should be a place of safety and trust and not judgment or rejection. That's why this topic matters to me, not just as a student, but as someone who believes that compassion and not personal opinion should be the forefront of healthcare. Doctors should not be allowed to refuse care based on personal beliefs. When they do, patients suffer, healthcare becomes unfair, and the very foundation of medical ethics, the commitment to treat all who need help, is weakened. I'm going to cover 3 main points. 1, patient rights must come first. 2, refusals limit access to care. And 3, medicine must remain evidence-based. Number 1, patient rights must come first. The American Medical Association's Code of Ethics states that a physician's first duty is to the patient's well-being. Quote, "do no harm." This universal statement is not optional, and it is something that you pledge whenever you become a healthcare professional or doctor. Allowing refusals violates the principle and creates fear in patients who worry their doctor might judge them. 2, refusal limits access to healthcare. According to American Journal of Public Health, over 1 in 5 patients in rural areas have limited provider options. So if you have a provider in a rural area and they have a certain belief, then your options become very limited to who can provide healthcare. So for example, a woman experiencing a pregnancy complication could die if the only available doctor they have refuses to do any type of abortion. And my third point is medicine must remain evidence-based. Major medical organizations like the American College of Physicians emphasize that decisions must be grounded in science and not ideology. Allowing moral and religious refusals invites bias into healthcare and undermines the trust that patients and doctors have in that relationship. Some argue that doctors should be allowed to refuse healthcare in order to protect their own religious beliefs and freedom. They claim forcing doctors to take part in procedures they morally oppose, such as reproductive or end-of-life treatments, violates their own conscience and freedom of belief. While freedom of belief is important, choosing to practice medicine is a privilege and not a personal right. When doctors earn their license, they agree to uphold a professional standard of care, even when it's uncomfortable. A doctor's personal beliefs should never outweigh a patient's right to treatment. If a provider objects to a procedure, they can still ensure that a patient receives timely care by referring them immediately to another professional. That's how you balance conscience and responsibility without denying care. In the end, personal beliefs should never interfere with professional duty. Doctors must treat patients based on compassion, equality, and evidence, not on personal or moral judgment. We all rely on the healthcare system at some point in our lives. If we want to protect fairness, safety in that system, we must support laws and hospital policies that prevent discrimination in healthcare. When someone is sick or scared, they deserve treatment and not a lecture. Because in medicine, personal beliefs should never be a barrier to healing. That's all.
Okay. Good, all the way around. I thought it was well organized. Everybody should get fair treatment. You're a college student going out into the world in the health profession. I think that you wanna make sure that you emphasize that. You're not just a college student going out in the world, but you're a person who wants to go into the medical field. So this matters to you. So I think that you should add that to your personal perspective. I liked your thesis. I liked your major points being supported by facts. I would like to hear a real world example of this.
Okay.
Some event that really happened that made a difference to this person's life. And, whether it's, there's some real sad cases that have come up over the last few months of a young woman who's like pregnant, having problems. She's in Texas. They won't take her in the emergency room, and I don't want to say exactly what happened, but I don't know if she made it or not out of the whole situation.
Yeah, that's where I changed my thesis because I saw something about a pregnancy, and the healthcare provider at the time wouldn't, she put her moral beliefs into the patient's healthcare, and it just didn't end out right.
Mhm.
So, but I don't want to really get into the politics side of
Sure.
it, but just in general, arguing that no matter what, your right is to the patient, and you shouldn't they should not have limited options because of you. You know what I'm saying?
I think
But-
that's completely good. I just still would like one example.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sounds
It would
good.
make it stronger. Then the other thing you did on your opposite side, you said some argue and they. That's where we want to get you to a specific.
Okay.
This person, maybe it's the real world example. This doctor said, I'm not going to treat that person because of X, Y, and Z. So whenever and this isn't just for this speech, it's for any speech or essay that you write, we don't want to use some or they. We want to say who it is that says this, so we have somebody real. Otherwise, I think you have good volume up there. Your hand use is good. Occasionally you'll clamp them down and hold like this and just kind of
Okay.
keep them free. And then I think this was your practice one, so on your final, you want to talk a little bit more than you read. And this is normal on the first one, everybody kind of reads more than they talk. But on the next time around, see if you can talk more than you read.
Sounds good.
But those are the points for improvement. Otherwise, thought it was solid twos. Interesting, let's give her a hand. How much time do we have left? A minute? I'm not even getting up. I'm just gonna stay right here, Sam. Let's see, we've got 5 of these things. I always look for themes in student speeches. And the nice thing about these speeches, they were all about, almost all, you could say they were all about helping people. Alyssa's really was more about college, and that's helping a college student trying to figure out how to pay for it or whether it's really important. But Bailey, helping out service workers who work in tipping culture. And David, trying to keep the roads safe from us old people. Grace, wanting to help immigrant people or anybody learn English. Jasmine, advocating for policies to help mental health issues. And Marianne, advocating for people to get health care no matter what. So I think you're all a sensitive bunch and you want to help people, and I think that's good. Okay, just 17 seconds. What is today, Wednesday? We'll have a happy and a safe Halloween if you do the Halloween thing. And we'll see you back here next Monday, and we'll start from the bottom again, and we'll roll through the final speeches next week. Okay? All right, well with that, we'll see y'all later.